वेलकम बैक डियर स्टूडेंट्स। आज हम डिस्कस करने जा रहे हैं एक इम्पोर्टेंट टॉपिक जिसका नाम है एपोमिक्सिस। तो एपोमिक्सिस में हमें क्या क्या जानना है। फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल द डेफिनेशन ऑफ एपोमिक्सिस, ओके, देन व्हाट आर डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ एपोमिक्सिस, एंड फाइनली we will study the importance of apomixis, okay। तो एपोमिक्सिस के अगर हम लफ्जी माने देखेंगे, द टर्म एपोमिक्सिस which means away from mixing. Apo means away, mixes means mixing, okay। Away from mixing, it refers to the substitution of sexual reproduction by any such method which does not involve meiosis and syngamy. Any such method of propagation in plants which does not involve meiosis and syngamy. Meiosis and syngamy, they are the characteristic features of sexual reproduction. याद रखना, this is very much important. Any reproductive event that does not involve meiosis and syngamy, that is known as apomixis. Okay, without mixing, there occurs the formation of embryo. Okay, there occurs the formation of new plants. Or it is a development of seed without sexual fusion. Development of seed without sexual fusion or without fertilization. This is the another definition of apomixis. So it is obvious that in apomixis, sexual reproduction is substituted by asexual methods. असल में जो asexual reproduction है, that is apomixis. याद रखना, okay। Substitution of sexual process by asexual methods, it can also be called as apomixis, okay। This is another way of defining apomixis. The plants which show apomixis, they are called as apomictic plants. वो plants जिनमें apomixis होती है, they are known as apomictic plants. I will repeat all these things. The term apomixis means away from mixing, and it refers to the substitution of sexual reproduction by any such reproductive event which does not involve meiosis and syngamy. Or alternatively, you can define apomixis as development of seed without sexual fusion. And the plants which show apomixis, they are known as apomictic plants, okay। Now the plants showing apomixis, they show varied types of reproduction, or you can say apomixis has been divided into three types. We have first vegetative propagation, then agamospermy and adventio embryony, okay। vegetative propagation की बात अगर करेंगे हम, इसमें बहुत सारी टर्म्स हमें डिफाइन करनी है, ओके। नेचुरल वेजिटेटिव प्रोपगेशन, फिर है आर्टिफिशियल, तो इट विल टेक अस सम 3 or 4 क्लासेस, ये हमें अलग से डिटेल में डिस्कस करना है। तो दूसरा है एगेमोस्पर्मी। एगेमोस्पर्मी में इसके खुद के टाइप्स है, नॉन रिकरेंट और गेमेटोफिटिक एगेमोस्पर्मी, जो हम आज डिस्कस करने वाले हैं। एंड देन वी हैव it is another type, recurrent or sporophytic agamospermy, okay। and ये वाला जो है, ये हमने ऑलरेडी डिस्कस किया हुआ है पॉलीएम्ब्रियनी में। पॉलीएम्ब्रियनी में हमने थोड़ा डिस्कस किया है, आज हम और जानेंगे इसके बारे में, ओके। तो जो नॉन रिकरेंट है, इट इज ओन टाइप्स, हैप्लॉइड पार्थेनोजेनेसिस एंड हैप्लॉइड एपोगेमी। एंड लाइकवाइज recurrent or sporophytic agamospermy, it has its own types, diploid apospory and diploid parthenogenesis, okay। So the apomictic plants, they show different methods of apomixis, okay। Any reproductive event, this is very much important, any reproductive event which does not involve meiosis and syngamy, that constitutes apomixis. And you have to remember that all these reproductive events, all these reproductive strategies, whether vegetative propagation, whether agamospermy or adventio embryony, they do not involve syngamy and meiosis. Now first of all, what is vegetative propagation? At this point of time, we won't go into the details of vegetative propagation. We'll remember what vegetative propagation means. In this method, plants propagate by a part of their body other than the sexual product. Any part of the plant, whether it is leaf, whether it is stem, whether it is root, that help us in propagation, that help us in multiplication, that leads to the generation of new plants. Okay, this is known as vegetative propagation. Vegetative propagation is the multiplication of plants using vegetative parts other than seed, not seed. The structural units that we use, that are used, that are employed for the propagation of plants, they are known as vegetative propagules. So vegetative propagules are the plant parts that give rise to new plants. Now what is agamospermy? अगर हम agamospermy की मीनिंग देखेंगे, it is derived from Greek words a without, gamos means marriage, and sperma means seed. That means seeds are formed. Seeds are formed without fusion of gametes. So the literal meaning of agamospermy is formation of seeds without fusion of gametes. So agamospermy can be defined as the formation of seeds that has an embryo, the formation of a seed containing an embryo formed without meiosis and syngamy. याद रखना, this is very much important. Agamospermy means formation of seed that has an embryo, and that embryo has formed without meiosis and syngamy. Now its types. The first one is non-recurrent or gametophytic agamospermy. In this type, the embryo develops from any cell of the embryo sac or you can say the haploid cells. Any haploid cell of the embryo sac can give rise to new embryo. अगर आप देखोगे, this is megaspore mother cell. It undergoes meiosis, forms 4 cells, megaspores. Out of these, 3 degenerate and this one survives. It forms the female gametophyte. These are the polar nuclei, these are the antipodals. All these cells are haploid. This is the egg, this is haploid. Okay, synergids, these are all haploid. So any cell of the female gametophyte or embryo sac, whether it is antipodal, whether it is synergid, whether it is egg, okay, unfertilized egg, they can give rise to embryos. And if this happens, you can say it is known as gametophytic agamospermy. Okay, क्यों gametophytic agamospermy? Because this is the gametophyte. Okay, gametophyte से embryo बनता है without fusion. In this type, you have to remember, this is very much important. In this type of agamospermy, meiosis occurs normally. Meiosis normally हो जाती है क्योंकि ये जो this megaspore mother cell है, it undergoes meiosis and forms the functional it forms the megaspores which are haploid. Okay, normally meiosis takes place, but there is no fusion. Fusion नहीं होता है. There is no fusion, and because of this, the embryo that arises, that is haploid, and hence these seeds are non-viable. This is very much important. अगर unfertilized egg से embryo बनेगा, this will be haploid. The embryo will be haploid because fusion has not taken place. Okay, अगर synergid से बनेगा, that also will be haploid because fusion has not taken place. That is already, this cell is haploid, and the embryo that will originate from this, that also will be haploid. Now it has its 2 types. The first one is haploid parthenogenesis. अब haploid parthenogenesis क्या है? Haploid parthenogenesis means development of embryo from an unfertilized egg. ये female gametophyte है. This is unfertilized egg. These are synergids, antipodals, polar nuclei. This is unfertilized egg. If this unfertilized egg directly gives rise to an embryo, this is known as haploid parthenogenesis. Okay, this is very much important. So haploid parthenogenesis means the egg which is present inside the female gametophyte, it directly gives rise to an embryo. Okay, and it has been found to occur in Solanum nigrum and Orchis ovulata. Okay, Solanum nigrum and Orchis ovulata. Now, what are the causes of haploid parthenogenesis? The first one is absence of pollen tube. Pollen tube नहीं होता है, and because of that, there occurs there is lack of male gametes. Okay, when there is lack of male gametes, the egg will directly give rise to embryo. Fertilization नहीं हो जाएगी. Second one is inability of the tube to discharge its contents. Pollen tube available होता है, but that pollen tube is not able to discharge its contents, to discharge the male gametes. The third one is an insufficient attraction between male and female nuclei. The pollen tube is capable of discharging its contents, but the male and female gametes, they are not capable of attracting each other. And finally, the fourth one is early degeneration of sperms. Sperms are released, male gametes are released by the pollen tube, but they degenerate at an earlier time period. They do not reach the egg. Now, haploid apogamy. What is haploid apogamy? It means development of embryo from any cell, synergid or antipodal, of the embryo sac except the egg cell. If embryo formation takes place from either synergid or the antipodals of the embryo sac except the egg cell, this is known as haploid apogamy. Haploid apogamy means development of embryo from any cell, be it synergid or an antipodal cell, except the egg cell. This is very much important. These terms are very much important. You have to remember that the difference between haploid parthenogenesis and haploid apogamy is, while in case of haploid parthenogenesis, the unfertilized egg gives rise to embryo, in haploid apogamy, the synergid or antipodal cell of the embryo sac gives rise to the embryo. Okay, and it has been found to occur in Lilium martagon and Virginia delawi. Okay, so this is all about the apomixis and recurrent apomixis. In the next part, we are going to talk about non-recurrent apomixis and the advent to embryony. Till then, take care and God bless you all.